Ethics in Modern Law Enforcement, Robert Fisher, CRJ 340. We start off by having to define what are ethics. Ethics, simply put, is the discipline of determining good and evil and defining moral duties. Now, how did ethics develop? Ethics developed over time as societies organized and people began to live together. So societies wouldn't be able to cooperate or live together if there was no standard for right or wrong. Without a standard of ethics, that's what prevents societies from degeneration into a state of chaos and confusion. And these standards were set by early civilizations and the philosophers that lived in them. The first of these philosophers was Socrates, also known as the father of ethics. He associated knowledge with virtue, believed bad acts were the result of ignorance, and the wisest man was the most virtuous man. That being said, he also thought that happiness came from virtue, and and virtue came from knowledge. So if you had knowledge, you had virtue, and if you had virtue, you were happy. Became this Socratic method of questioning a person's beliefs. He removed self-deception and incorrect assumptions about what he thought. Next in line of the early philosophers was Plato. He was a student of Socrates. And Plato was, that's how we know about Socrates mostly, is from the writings of Plato. He wrote down their conversations. He also associated virtue with wisdom. He believed that there were 4 virtues, and he specifically mentioned them in his teachings. There were wisdom, courage, moderation, and justice. Now these 3 virtues were very important in society, making up society, how they acted. You had wisdom, which was for the rulers. You had courage, which was for the soldiers, today's police officers and still soldiers. And moderation, which is for the merchants, business people and salesmen of that time. Now the 4th virtue of justice, also he mentions that, but that is that each person in society knows their place and where they should be, and they perform to the best of their ability. So the 4th one is for society as a whole, whereas the first 3 are for individuals. Now after Plato, you have Aristotle, a student of Plato. Now he didn't believe that bad behavior came from ignorance. He believed that bad behavior came from a result of weak will. People did bad things knowingly, and virtue is a result of moderation. He believed in the golden mean, which was the actions between 2 extremes. Cowardice on one side, foolhardiness on one side, and in the middle is courage. The same way with stinginess on one side and wastefulness on the other, you would get generosity in the middle. You mold all of those teachings from Socrates to Plato to Aristotle, and they formed a kind of a foundation for ethics as society progressed. Now, ethics became involved in early police work by the efforts of Sir Robert Peel. Robert Peel developed the first professional police force in London, England. The first police force was a result of the 1829 Act for improving the police in and near the metropolis of London, also called the Metropolitan Police Act. Now, Peel envisioned a police force comprised of citizens who were paid for by the community. And for that payment, their duties were to prevent crime and disorder. He developed 9 principles defining his philosophy to develop an ethical police force. Now, out of those 9, they all have to deal with morals and ethics and behavior. What we're going to focus on is the principle number 5. Now, principle number 5, where it says the police seek and preserve public favor, not by catering to public opinion, but by constantly demonstrating absolute impartial service to the law. Basically, that's the police force has a moral and ethical obligation to serve the public, regardless of the race or finances or politics. And if they fail to do this, they're going to face immediate public scrutiny. By operating in this manner, they maintain a standard that helps them establish respect from the community. That's the first time that the ethics were applied to law enforcement. And here you have the other 6, 7, 8, and 9 of the principles. And you can tell by reading all 9 of them that they all have to do with how decisions are made and how people that are police officers decide on their moral obligations and their ethical obligations. Now, those 9 principles were later used and enhanced and refined by law enforcement in the United States. Now, the first one to do this is going to be August Vollmer. Now, August Vollmer was considered the father of modern day law enforcement. He's the one that demanded from his officers that they be honest, efficient, interested, and hardworking. And that's something he demanded from all of his officers. Now, Chief Vollmer was named chief of the Berkeley Police Department. He's the first chief of that police department. And he was instrumental in organizing that department into a professional police force. That was with training and education. And also would develop ethics for all his police officers. Now, he created the first code of ethics for law enforcement. And that's important as law enforcement agencies developed, because in those things, he first demanded from his officers that they eliminate any acceptance of gratuities, rewards, or favors. This allowed them to do their job and perform their duties without having to have influence from people in the community that were expecting something from them because they gave them a gift or a reward or owed them a favor. But like I said, that code of ethics became important because when he left there, he later became the president of the International Associations of Chiefs of Police, which is IACP, still one of the most influential organizations in police work today. Now, the IACP, or the International Associations of Chiefs of Police, they helped develop the law enforcement code of ethics, which led down to canons of police ethics. Now, that's important because just like other professional organizations of that time, Chief Vollmer wanted policemen to be a professional organization, and as such, he needed to have a code of ethics, similar to what doctors have and what lawyers were having, and other professional organizations. But he made sure that police officers took that oath, took it more serious by having an oath when they accepted their ethics, and they accepted their duties and responsibilities as a police officer. And all police officers take that oath today, and that's how they become a sworn police officer, by taking that oath. Now, the IACP has 4 major themes that are involved in the Code of Ethics. First thing is fairness. Uphold the law without singling out special groups. No use of authority to gain personal profit. Service to the community. Importance of law. Protectors of the Constitution. Cannot go beyond the law or substitute your own thoughts or ideas of the law. And personal conduct. Must uphold a standard of behavior consistent with public position. Now, these are also important in other organizations and other standards that are set. And one of those is that they took these IACP Code of Ethics was the CALEA. Now, CALEA, which is the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, they consider ethics as a Tier 1 option for accreditation. That means you have to have it in your stuff. Tier 1 or must-haves. And it's Section 1.1.2 Code of Ethics describes what you have to do to develop those Code of Ethics. Now, all agencies that are attaining accreditation or reaccreditation are required to establish a Code of Ethics. That's how important the Code of Ethics are. They have to have it before they can even get accredited. Now, I work for the Cobb County Police Department. Our Code of Ethics is written right into our policy manual, and it follows the 4 major themes: the importance of law, constitutional rights of persons to liberty, equality, and justice, and that's the duty as the law enforcement officers in our department. Their personal conduct. You keep your private life unsullied and maintain courage and calm in the face of danger, scorn, or ridicule. Your off-duty conduct is just as important as your on-duty conduct with the department. And fairness. You won't ever allow your personal feelings, prejudice, or friendships, or anything else to come in the way of how you do your job and how you make your decisions. And your service. That your badge is your office and a symbol of public faith. And you accept it as a public trust to be held so long as that you are true to the ethics of police service. It's what you do when you take your oath of your office, when you take that oath to become a police officer. Now, ethics have been around since the beginning of civilization. Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, they laid the groundwork, the foundation for ethics. Those groundwork and that foundation was carried on by and incorporated in the first police force by Sir Robert Peel. That was further refined and reformed for modern law enforcement by Gus Ballmer. Code of Ethics is so important in our profession. That's required for all law enforcement by the International Association of Chiefs of Police and for CALEA, the Commission for Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies. And like in most departments and mine, it's a main point in your departmental policy to guide you in making your decisions. Because ethics, as we started from the beginning, is the discipline of determining good and evil and defining the moral duties. Those are very important principles for a policeman.